No, I'm a kind of guy that would really appreciates my own autonomy. I don't want someone telling me what to do.
How do we really form languages?
Before you even before you even come up with your product, you need to find the group of people that you're trying to sell to.
You actually use it? What are the benefit of it? What do you say? Hello, everyone, and thank you for today's episode of the Obehi podcast. I remain Obehi Ewanfo, the host of this podcast. We believe in the power of storytelling, which is why we are here all the time, bringing in individuals who have lived, who have experiences to share with us, letting us know what they do, what they do. So at least you can also better connect to them and connect to your audience. Why not? So today I have the honor of bringing in an expert in his field to share with us what he's doing and why he's doing what he's doing. That why is fundamentally important for us. Kai, thank you so much for being here. Could you share with people your name and, of course, where you're coming from? We're going to be spending all the time, at least in the first part of this episode, just talking about you. I would love to do that. Please pick the mic for me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Obehi. Um, yeah, my name's Kyle. Like you mentioned, I'm originally from Seattle and uh, Washington State, United States. Um, my story in regards to my company Air Language, which I'm the CEO of, started with just a little problem. I'm a high school English language teacher or ESL teacher by trade. And I saw a big problem that was common in my classes over the course of a few years. And so I decided to solve the problem. Um, the problem was basically I had students of a lot of different levels in the same classroom. So I went back to the research, asked myself if I could do one thing to improve the language of every student, what would it be? With minimal effort from me, of course. And turned out reading. Everybody needed to read, but everybody needed something different from the reading. They all needed different language. Some students needed audio support to hear the language while they read. Uh, some students were not able to focus, so they needed pictures. Other students needed some incentive, extrinsic motivation, so they were able to earn points. I took all of these different students in and created this system. The first iteration was on a website, gave my students just a website with all these books with information and pictures that they could learn about. It took me a really long time. Yeah, it took me like a year to build. But yeah, they were using it, and I noticed that some of the students I was really trying to target, they weren't reading. So I realized that I needed to go the personalized route. I needed to come up with a more advanced tech solution. So I sought out a group, it was like an incubator. And in that incubator, I found a tech guy. Like I was able to build me my MVP or my initial prototype and able to put my students in there. And I saw a lot of success. From there, I just kept on building.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That is a classic story of a startup.
Mhm. Yeah.
That you identify a problem that you want to solve in the community, and you develop a product for that. And of course, then you work with people and you create the MVP. That is really interesting.
Mhm.
So, is it kind of a language assistant or reading assistant or a kind of Can you tell me a bit about how you describe this particular product that you have developed?
Yeah, it's a language reading system for language learning. So if you think about language and how we develop language, even our first languages, it's really pretty simple. We just hear a bunch of language, or in the case of our second language, we read a bunch of language. And from that language, we are able to kind of come up with our own sentences, create new from based on our thoughts, and then produce new sentences, right? So um, what a student is able to do is go onto our system. They start reading. They just read books about kind of whatever they want. And after each book, there's a really quick quiz. And the more they read, the more their language grows. The next innovation is pretty cool, really. It's an AI reading tutor. And students are able to have conversations with Ari, our AI, about what they've been reading. And I think that will really push a lot of students to the next level.
Right. But somebody might be wondering now, like, why are you interested in a service like this? Is there anything that maybe might have tied you to it, apart from the challenge that you find there? Because you could, of course, address the problem in a very other way, but now you are focusing on language. Because, of course, we are going to be looking at how do you even develop language, but that is a little part of the conversation. But I'm trying to understand if there is anything inside of you that is sort of pulling you towards this approach to solving this problem.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I'm a kind of guy that would really appreciates my own autonomy. I don't want someone telling me what to do, and I want to be given a frictionless path towards progress in everything that I do, because I know that because I value time, and I um, I know that if I really care about something, if I really want something, that that I will do it if there's a path forward. So I want to give students that ability too. I don't want them to have to rely on teachers or on a class that may or may not be effective to improve their language.
All right.
So yeah, no, I studied in a language program. I studied Spanish, and I learned Spanish pretty well. Um, but having a system in which I was able to having a system in which I would be able to learn the language from different contexts on my own time and at my own pace. I think uh, that would have been something that would have been very attractive to me as
Thank you so much for that. So,
you know.
are you what maybe somebody might describe as a linguist, somebody who's an expert in language? Could you tell me something more about that?
Yeah, I studied linguistics in college, and I still enjoy the occasional podcast from a linguist, and I've got my linguists that I read and listen to. So yeah, I really enjoy language structure and grammar, and plus I like what language represents, which is connection with people like you. I mean, we're thousands of miles apart, right? Yeah.
Okay, now let's try to understand it like this. How do we really form languages? Now we use a code to communicate. No, that when I tell you, because I think human being and the human society, our life is very, very complex. Sometimes it appears that it's very simple, but it's not very simple. Somebody was saying, oh, okay, let me put it this way. I say something, you are able to decode immediately what I'm saying. That is not even very simple thing, no?
Yeah.
But for us, because we do it often, it appears to be very simple. Okay, let's try to look at that even simply. How do we form our languages to the point that we can use one word, another person that is hearing you somewhere understands what it means, and we can use different variation of the same word or different sound or writing, and we're able to understand it. We are very intelligent as species. So tell me more about that. How do we form our languages?
How do we form our languages? Do you mean when you say form our languages? I'm going to get a little bit more specific. Do you mean form our languages in a person to person context where you and I are talking and we don't really know each other? Or are you talking more on a macro level? Like, how do we form new languages? I mean, in general, how does Spanish and Swahili and Chinese, how do those become, capital Spanish, capital Chinese? How, what do you mean?
Actually, I'll be interested in how you want to how you want to address it from whichever angle you are interested in, or maybe uh, uh, resonate with you more. But in any case, I'm really interested in all of it. But let's look at it this way. I'm looking at a language now as an encoding and decoding, in the sense that you say something, I'm able to understand you. I
Yeah,
am not sure if you say the same thing that I'm telling you now to maybe a chimpanzee or a gorilla or an antelope, they will understand you the way that we understand ours. Of course, they have their own language too. So I
sure.
am interested in this method of communication that we call language, in the sense that when we just throw out things there, the other person that is hearing us understand exactly what we mean. Because now you are saying something, the person that is hearing you say something just start to cry. Or the
Yeah,
person that is hearing you say something just pick up and is running. And is able to understand the meaning of what you are saying. And is able to know that you are about to kill him, or you are inviting him to say, hey, come and eat. Or is able to understand that you are telling him, hey, start the engine and run. Or is able to understand you are telling him there is a danger coming. That is what I'm saying, that it's not very simple. It's a complex system. But because we are very complex ourselves, we're able to understand all this. But we're talking about language now. How do we manage to understand this encoding and decoding, that we're able to understand what we are even talking about?
yeah. It's all fundamentally based on a shared reality. I mean, fundamentally, it's based on humanity. Uh, I know that I can communicate with anybody in the world to some degree, and successfully, because I understand that everybody has the basic fundamental needs. We all have to drink water, we all have to eat, we all need love and affection. We all have like a soul desire that I don't know if anybody really, really quite understands. Like this pull that draws us near to other people and to God. We all have all of these basic fundamental traits that 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 define humanity, right? I
All
mean,
right, I get that.
and based on that,
Mhm.
based on that, if I say this, I have food, you're gonna know what I mean, right?
Oh, all right. So
Right.
you're saying, okay, okay, go on.
Yeah. Okay. Now the thing is, the closer you and I are culturally, the more needs we share, the more needs we have in common. Um, let's say in my own house, we have a lot of needs in common, and they are very particular to our house. Um, Here's something that is very subtle that nobody would understand unless you were me or my wife, and that's it. Um, the cat is meowing outside of my room at 4 a.m. What is that supposed to mean? It means something. So I hear that, okay, and then I feel a kick to my leg, and that is somehow a communication, isn't it? And it's telling me, hey, Kyle, get up and feed the cat. Or she could just grunt, "Ugh," she's angry. The cat's waking her up. That's what, like, basically that's what you're talking about, right? How do we send and receive messages? Shared values, shared needs.
All right. I want to ask you the question like this in another way. Of course, not the same question, but moving out from there. So now you create a product to help people read better or maybe to understand better. Therefore, we are talking about comprehension there. Is it that these people are not able to understand the language or they are not able to understand language generally? Where do they have challenges that they are not able to uh, comprehend where or speak where or understand the language where that they therefore need help? Could you share something about that?
So the people that we are helping learn language, um, well, it's basically a shortcut. That's what it is. It's a shortcut. So I know that if I go and live in another country and I interact with the local people and I read signs and billboards and just live, if I live life, uh, and I try to get along with the local people, that I will learn the language, and I will learn to a certain point. At some point, I'll pick up a book and I'll say, I have to read this newspaper or this book to understand something about the society. And somewhere around 5 to 6 years, I'll have a very good understanding of society and how to communicate in that society in that particular way. I just will, right? We are giving them the language that they need at any particular point in that language learning process. And as we know, the more you more language you take in, the more language you have, the more language you learn, the more language you can output or speak or write. So yeah, we are kind of giving them a shortcut to just, let's say, communicate a lot easier in those situations rather than having them learn it all implicitly.
All right. All right. If somebody were born in a place, in a community, let's call it like that, because that is an ancient form now, and it's probably far easier for us to understand than that call it a country. If somebody were born into a community where a certain language is spoken, if this person never move out of that community, would he need to learn that language deeply, or in the sense of, will it need to learn the language, or will it just have the innate ability to speak the language because he or she is interacting with member of the community? So I'm trying to understand is that, do we need to organize a course for somebody to understand his own language if he's already engaging with it? Or let me put it this way. Is it that the person, is it the lack of interaction with the local people that lead to the inability of an individual to understand the language of the local? Or because he probably is coming from a different place, therefore he doesn't understand the language, therefore he needs to be taught to understand the language so he can communicate with the people? I don't know if that is confusing, but I'm sort of trying to understand the basic human behavior in this area.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I know you're yeah, no. That person if they move to a new place, they'll learn the customs, they'll learn the language, if they interact with it. The problem is interacting with it, and what is it? So they're interacting with the people they interact with, right? Everybody's gonna do that. The problem with that is that's limited. So that person is not interacting, well, may or may not interact with a higher form of the language. Okay, so that's why it's so important that we read. And if you look at second graders, you'll see kind of a gradual language growth. If you just kind of look at a graph, if you could graph it, you'll see an average language growth, and then suddenly you'll see the hockey stick. You'll see it just go up right around second grade, and that's because that's when they start consuming huge amounts of text. Right around second grade, at least here in the United States. It's probably different in different places. So yeah, you have to interact with the language in order to grow in the language. And so if you're interacting with a bunch of people on your day-to-day basis, and they're using a lot of the same vocabulary, you're going to take that vocabulary in and use it. You're just going to.
That's another interesting thing, the vocabulary.
Yeah.
Is it possible that maybe now let's look at it from, our field of research here, because I'll be researching about the presence of Africans starting from Italy. Then, of course, now we expanded to different parts of the world, wherever we find the African diaspora. So I can tell you personally, before I came to Italy, I didn't know any word about Italian. Okay, I've read books like Julius Caesar, Romeo and Juliet, and many other books that have been written about Italian or about the Italian culture by Shakespeare and other writers. Okay, names like Brutus, Bruno, and things like that have come across my ear, or actually my eyes, because these are text-based content. But when I came to Italy, that was the first time I'm hearing the word ciao. Ciao is a simple thing as hi.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, believe me, somebody have told me how to say that word. In a few seconds, I have already forgotten it, and I've replaced it with another word that probably you will find in Nigeria.
Yeah.
In the sense that, because my head is not empty. Sure. My head is already configured like a computer, no? So that when you have a difficulty, you go back to the default. So even for me, saying ciao, something as simple as ciao, become complicated at a point, but then I have to learn it, no? So like I say, I haven't gone to any formal school in Italy, but of course I work I work as a receptionist for several years, meaning I'm able to interact with the people in Italian language by interacting with people. So I sort of got to learn this language. Now, this is my curiosity. For somebody who is probably coming into a community, okay, let's call it a country this time, in a modern setting, or whether in the US or in the UK or Germany or France, who is going to be interacting with the people, do you think from the point of view of linguistic, of language, that this person should select the kind of vocabulary he is going to be listening to? Because if you learn about the local, okay, in the sense now of the local place that you are living in, and by the time maybe you want to speak at the national level of the same country, you might see that the things change. For example, in the case of Italy, that is what they call the Italian official language. That is what they call the dialetto, which is dialect, no? So that if you are in some part of the southern Italy, you have a certain way of saying certain things, or even have a certain way of the pronunciation of certain words, sometimes a completely different pronunciation and even the writing of certain words. That is not the official Italian language. What I'm saying, what if I spend all my time just learning that dialetto? If I need to speak at a national level, maybe meeting somebody that is coming from a different region in Italy, I might have challenges. So my curiosity is, would you recommend that somebody choose the kind of vocabulary he or she adapt to or listens to? Because you are saying, and of course it's evident, that if you interact with the language, you can master the language. But it depends on what language are you mastering? What type of language, even within the same country, are you mastering? So that, because if you want to work in a hotel, you master the local dialect in the case of Italy, but I don't know much about the United States in terms of how you configure your language. What if I am not going to be working within that local area? What I'm going to be working at the national or at the international level using maybe the official language? That is where I'm sort of having a curiosity there. What do you say about that?
First of all, you've got to interact with the language that you want to learn. You know, be that a particular dialect, or be that a particular dialect or an entire language. You got to interact with, or maybe just a certain set of like a jargon. Like in a particular industry. So if you're trying to get into a particular industry, you probably want to interact a lot with the language that people use in that industry. Okay. That's number one. At the same time, you should be ingesting as much language as possible. As much as possible. The better you are, the better you are. And there's a thing called code switching, where and we all do it, right? You talk a certain way with your children. At least I do with my children. I don't know if you have kids.
Yeah, I've got a kid. Yeah.
Yeah, and you talk a certain way with them, and some of the words that you use with your friends, you wouldn't dare let your children hear you say. And
that is the complexity of the human being again.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. And it's like, we all do it all the time. We've done it since we were just children. I mean, it doesn't take a genius. It's complex, but it doesn't take a genius to code switch. The more language you know, the easier it becomes. And when you talk about dialects of a language, now dialects can be as distinct as languages sometimes. And I don't know much about the difference between the Italian from southern Italy versus the national dialect, or the dialecto, right? Dialecto, did you say?
Yeah, dialecto, that's correct.
Yeah. I don't know much about the difference, but I can't imagine that they're quite similar. And I would also bet that people who go to school, students who go to school from, kindergarten on up in southern Italy, I bet you they learn the dialecto. I bet you they do, because they want to give their students their kids the opportunities that everybody else does.
All right. I'm not going to debate that, but of course I know that in Italy, they sort of try to promote the national language. Of course, that is also of a strategic importance too, in the sense of, because the Italian language is pretty new, as it were, known, in the sense that it's something that came up in the 1800s, in the sense of trying to unify the country. So they pick one of the languages and they use it as the official language. They didn't eliminate the local languages, using the Italian as an example, no? So in the official curriculum, the language that is used to converse in Italy is that official language. But of course, if you are out of that setting, the language that you will, okay, depending on who you are talking to, particularly if you are talking to elderly people, they don't use, okay, not all, no, it depends. Most of the elderly people, if you know who they are talking to, they will usually use, that is code switching again anyway. Even though maybe they might know the official language, but maybe they might want to isolate you, or maybe they might want to talk about things, I repeat again, we are very complex as species, okay? All right, now if you take the situation to maybe Nigeria again, or to Ivory Coast, or to other countries in Africa, that is what we call the Creole, no? Which is English. We speak English, no? If I am speaking English with another Nigerian, I can have the Nigerian official language, no, which of course everybody can understand, even if you're not Nigerian. But that is a Nigerian English I will speak. You will not understand it. That again is called switching. That is language. It's English, no? But it's a different kind of English in the sense that that is an English that is based on the local experiences of the people. In fact, I have argued at the point that this should actually be made the Nigerian official language because that is a unique form of English speaking, which is different from the American English or different from the English that you will speak in England or in Australia. But of course, that is a different argument altogether. But all what I'm saying is that it's really curious to see how we are able to form these different languages. I think that is actually where the question was coming from before. In that we are able to modify the code so that it sounds different, and even the way that we interpret things different, and even what we call things might be different. I'm really curious how we are able to do this as a people, whether it is actually just natural or sometimes it can even be intentional. Like in the case of Italy, no? In the case of Italy, they didn't say, okay, you speak the language that you like. No, they make it official that we pick this language of all the different dialects in Italy. Everybody must speak this language. You don't have any choice. If you're an Italian, you must speak this language that become the official language in Italy. Every other language was downgraded to become dialecto.
Sure.
So I'm seeing it from these two angles now that in the case of Nigeria, for example, the Nigerian government having officially said that, okay, no, in the official document, you see the Nigerian English, which of course we speak both the American English and also the British English. But of course, outside of that academic circle, everybody in Nigeria speaks the Nigerian Pidgin English. That is what it's called. So that is why I'm sort of having a curiosity there of the intentionality that we might have in this language is how you are able to find the right people that will be appropriate for the solution that you have created. Could you tell me about, okay, now we are looking at it from the point of view of business now, because when you create a product, you need the buyers, otherwise it's not a business. So tell me more about that.
Oh, how do you find buyers? Is that what you're looking for, customers or workers? Yeah. So that's, I think that is building a product 101. You have to define your market before you even begin building. We went backwards. We did it backwards. Don't do that. When you think, yeah, you know what, I would like to build something, before you even come up with your product, you need to find the group of people that you're trying to sell to. And if you can define that group of people and find out what they want, what do they really, 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 really want, and what is their biggest problem that they're having, wherever they are, and what do they like, what do they not like. You can generalize among this group of people, and it's pretty easy to do with ChatGPT nowadays. Talk to a bunch of people. Just talk. The most important thing is feedback and insight. The more counselors you have, the better. So, just learn a lot about that group of people, and then you can build a product that's specifically for them. For me personally, I came up with the product first. And that was because I built a product for my own personal problem. It's a really risky way to do startups. Super risky. I had a lot of conviction. In my solution. It would have been better to take that conviction and say, yeah, I love it. Let's set that conviction into the problem that a lot of people are willing to solve with your solution. And so once a founder is able to find that group of people they'd like to sell to and come up and then formulate their problem in a way that meets formulate their solution in a way that meets the problem of that ideal customer, that's when they can start building. And that's how you can, and then you can start building with your customer. So suddenly you become a partner with them and you say, hey, I want to solve your problem. Let's work together. This can be for free. You and I work together and I'll build something that suits your needs. And that suddenly creates a feedback loop for in product improvements and yeah, and new features. So
Thank you so much for that. I'm sort of curious about the people that are or the users of the product. What are they telling you? What kind of experiences are you gathering? Okay, you did raise an important point there that before we go into the production of the product or the development of the product, we need to first of all speak to the user who are going to use it there, because now we are shortcutting the challenges that we are going to have in the marketing. Because if you are the user of my product, we create it together, or you tell me what to create for you, it's far more easier for you to buy than maybe when I decide that I create something for you and I'm telling you, come and buy. But in any case, the product is there. What is the experience that you are gathering so far? What are they telling you?
yeah, a lot of it is, I mean, the biggest issue is hearing bad news because people don't like to deliver bad news. If they have bad news, they just stop using it. They stop using the product. If they have good news, they love to tell you about it. They'll tell you, and that's what we hear a lot of. And we have to dig really, really, really deep and push users really hard to tell us the bad news, what they don't like. And yeah, yeah. So I guess our feedback has been both, for sure. It's been both. But yeah, it's been far more positive than negative, and that's not always great. It's not always great.
Thank you so much for that. All right. Now, there is somebody that is curious. Let's look at this person in California or in New York. You have just heard you talking about this product that you have created, and it's wondering, how do you actually use it? What are the benefit of it? What do you say?
This is meant for the classroom, for a classroom or an organization uh, with people who don't speak English all that well or would like to improve in their language. It's pretty simple to use. An administrator gets on, creates an organization. They just put their email in to create an organization. They invite students, and the students receive an email. They click on it, create an account, and then they can begin reading books that are at their levels. They're put into a particular proficiency level. As they read the books, they're able to earn points. And like I mentioned a little earlier, they'll be able to have conversations with our AI about whatever they're reading, which is driven by their own.
So it's not something that somebody from the outside can just buy or download to use. For the user, they need to be part of your students or part of your school before they can use it. Is that correct?
No, you just go on the website and
Sorry?
they can just go on the website and read it.
Okay. Can you tell people how to find this product, how to reach out to you for those who want to learn more about the product, because you have taken your time to develop it, and I'm sure you want people to use it. So tell them how to reach out to you and how to find this product.
Sure, yeah. So the easiest way to find the product is just to type air language into Google and it'll pop up. I believe it's number one. Or you can go to airlanguagelearning.com and you'll go on the website and then you can click sign up for free. Just create an account there. You can also send me an email if you'd like to send me an email. That'd be cool. My email address is Kyle Kyle at airlanguage.io. And yeah, those are the easiest ways to.
Right, dear Carl, it has been a pleasure talking with you. It really be an honor here to learn about your approach to language learning and all those hard work that you put into develop this product. Thank you so much for the time.